I'd like to call to order the Conservation Advisory Council. This is the December 6th meeting, 2023. Laura, would you please call to order or roll call?
In person, we have Ashok Ramasubramanian, Chuck Petrowski, and Simran Uturkar. Sorry. Online, we have Ellen Daviero, Richard Frontero, and Georgia Marie Bonton, and Chairman Strayer.
Okay, great. In our packet, we have 3 months worth of the meeting minutes. So let's start with the September 6th meeting. Did anybody have any comments on those minutes?
Ellen did text me online. 3:35 in the September minutes. The Craig school is spelled wrong.
Okay, that was the only one.
That's the only one that she found.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments they want to make to the September minutes? Oh. Okay, hearing no other comments, I make a motion to adopt the September 6th minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
I am abstaining as well. I did not read the minutes.
Okay.
On the board yet.
That's fine.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. We have 2 abstentions.
That's the
Everybody else
2
approved.
abstentions. Yep.
Okay. Moving on, the October 4th meeting minutes. Since I was not at that meeting, I can't comment to the minutes.
Make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Chuck.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, the minutes carry.
Do
Oh.
you want the record to show your abstention, Chairman?
Yeah, just because I wasn't there. Okay, November 8th minutes. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, the
Aye.
minutes carry. Okay, I think everybody said aye on that.
Yeah, they did. That was a lot of minutes. Thank you, guys.
That was an hour
Yeah.
for the minutes.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Go ahead.
So I just want to say that I thought the meeting notes were excellent. So I thought whoever did them, fantastic job. So just putting that out there.
That was
Thought they were-
Trevor Gammy, and I actually thought that as well and sent her an email about them a couple days ago, but I will send her your notice of that as well. I thought they were very good.
Yeah, they were really well done. So thank you for that. All right, thanks.
Sure. Okay, is there anybody who would like to approach the board that's not related to a project? So would anybody like to speak to that? Do we have anybody online, Laura?
I didn't receive any emails or anyone online.
Okay, with no one online and no one in the meeting hall wanting to talk to the board, we will close privilege of the floor and let's move on to the EAFs. The first one we have is EAF 2023-07, and that's 2890 River Road. It's a subdivision. It's on River Road and Seneca, sort of the lot in between. There's a current house on that lot that will be demoed, and the developer would like to subdivide the lot and put a number of houses on it, and there is a water issue in the neighborhood as well. So if you'd like to approach the board, just give us your name and your firm. And
Mike Dussault, Engineering Ventures.
Okay.
So we did the EAF,
Excuse me, what, is the mic on? Because make sure the
Um,
mic's on.
It seems very quiet.
the green light's on here.
Oh, it is?
On?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe just bring it tilted down for you a little.
Is that better?
It's very quiet. It's okay. I heard on the recording that it was
Okay.
still.
Oh, as long as you heard it on the
I
recording.
can hear
that's
it on the
fine.
recording.
Okay.
All right. So through the EAF Mapper tool, there were two items related to the shorter and environmental assessment form that were flagged. One being historical sites and the other one being wetlands. The project site, as you can see on the screen here, has 2.14 acres of federally regulated freshwater wetlands. We're proposing two disturbances to the wetlands areas, which is the reddish colored hatches there of just a little bit less than 1/10 of an acre of wetland disturbance in the creation of the Lot 3. We submitted a joint permit application to the Army Corps and the DEC. Through correspondence, they asked us to do a habitat assessment for the northern long-eared bat. That assessment's been completed and found there was no adverse impact to that habitat of the bat. So that's been submitted to the Army Corps and the DEC, and we're awaiting a response after their review. For archaeology, the site is within a designated sensitive area for archaeological sites. So we made a consultation with SHPO through their CRIS system, and they requested that we prepare a phase 1 survey. So a phase 1A and phase 1B was completed and indicated no adverse impact to historical sites from the project. SHPO agreed, and they issued a letter this past week agreeing with the determination. We know that stormwater is an important issue for this project. Based on the last planning board meeting and discussion that we had there, the board is entertaining maybe to separate the issues with the drainage issues at Seneca Road and potentially at River Road from the development of the subdivision. The applicant is proposing to create a 1.7 acre permanent drainage easement and benefit of the town to perform repairs and maintenance on the drainage way across the property from Seneca Road, the two Seneca Road culverts to the 42-inch culvert on River Road. There were two requests that were made from the board from that last meeting, and the first was to have us study the 100-year storm flood elevation, the potential flood elevation at the River Road culvert and the impact on the proposed homes. We completed that study, and it's going to be issued in the new drainage report that we'll be sending to the town this week. We determined that lots 1 and 3 to the right of the page or to the left of the page, the basement level is about 3.4 feet above that 100-year flood elevation. And lot 2, which is closest to the River Road culvert, has a basement elevation of 1 foot above that potential 100-year flood elevation at the River Road culvert. The second was for us to look at post-construction stormwater management on each one of the lots. We're proposing, it's not shown on this plan, but on the plans we'll be submitting soon to the town for review, will include bioretention areas on each lot. Each of those retention areas are designed for water quality and water quantity, including the 1, 10, and 100-year storms. So basically, through the use of those bioretention areas, we're eliminating any potential impact from the increased impervious areas onto the drainage area or the drainage way that crosses the site.
So I have a couple questions here. The town right of way, if you could expand that map a little bit, Laura, it's an 80-foot corridor. You marked in that lot right there? In that plot? Is that the corridor?
Between the small sliver at
Yeah.
the bottom, those are two separate parcels that the applicant owns, and he'll combine and then make the subdivision out of those combined parcels.
Are you asking about the drainage
I'm
easement?
talking about the drainage right
Oh, the
away.
drainage-
I thought it was marked there. That's what I was talking.
Yes, on this plan, it's marked as 80-foot wide drainage easement, but the new plan that we've developed and through the discussion at the last planning board meeting, we're talking about having that left-hand dashed blue line being the edge of the drainage easement on the north side, and then the remainder of the land, which is about 1.76 acres, will be conveyed in the easement to the town for that drainage easement.
Okay, that was the map we had in our packet, I believe.
This is the map we had in our packet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was confused about.
Yeah.
the
Sorry,
acreage.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 1.76 acre now. We've modified the map, but we haven't submitted it yet.
Mhm. And the lot lines are where they will remain where they are now, or,
Correct. So the lot lines are shown in the red dashed lines.
you know, where, lot 3, where's lot 3's
Yeah, you
dash line? Laura, if you could.
Oh, sorry.
zoom back to the other side. Lot three is you have, so lot 1 is the smaller one, 100, I think
Yep.
it's 150 feet wide, and then lot 2, 175 feet wide, created
Mhm.
those kind of square rectangular lots, and then the balance of the site is lot 3. And then that easement would be created on the south side of the lot along Seneca Road. And the purpose of that easement is to have, the town will be able to get in there to provide maintenance and repairs, and if they choose to do a deeper dive on the causes of the drainage issues at Seneca Road, that'll allow them to go in there and make those repairs and changes.
So that easement is right along the road on the south side, Seneca and that dotted line.
Yeah, I can.
If you could point it out.
I was gonna try and draw it, but you can point it.
Okay,
This entire area,
the entire area there. Okay.
that would remove it from further future development.
Mhm.
Could you expand on that, please? Like, remove it from further future development? Like, what does that mean?
Well, it'd be a drainage easement, permanent drainage easement, so that I don't think they could develop it in the future if it's an easement area.
That is the case.
It's a conservation easement.
It's written as a drainage easement, but I don't know if the applicant has any. I wouldn't imagine they would mind if it was a drainage and conservation easement.
I think you would have to, it'd be a legal document, obviously, and that would have to be worked out between the
Mhm.
applicant and the town, what the language would be and what the conditions of that agreement would be.
Yeah, I know we did, and this is more of a planning board question, but we did have an internal meeting with the highway superintendent and the water and sewer superintendent, and showed them this map, and also talked about the possibility of the easement going to Seneca Road, which they just drafted a memo that they're very much in favor of. But they were also wondering if it's possible for the town to just take fee ownership of that area.
Just to provide.
As a food for thought.
Just to provide some background, right? Like, you are addressing the Conservation Advisory Council. The first word in that is conservation. So, in a town like Niskayuna, which is approaching full build out, and this body especially is interested in conserving what green space is available. And we always try to have a balance between the needs of residents, the needs of development, and the need that existing residents have for green space. I'll speak for myself here. I'm a scientist. I like to argue from science. There's a lot of data that shows that, presence of green space is not just important for human health and well-being. It's essential. So, that's where the question comes from. I don't fully understand the difference between a drainage easement and a conservation easement, but any idea of protected green space is by us favorably looked upon.
Hi, everyone. This is Georgia. I would just add that the proposal that was just made dovetails very nicely onto the wildlife corridors for the reasons that were just discussed. And the 1.76 miles as a combination would seem to do the trick very nicely.
Georgia, I'm very sorry. I did not understand what you were saying there.
The sewage, the drainage easement, conservation easement, the placement of it and the width of it can also serve as a wildlife corridor for the animals that are currently crossing through that area. I just wanted to add that as well as all the other positive effects of what was just proposed. That is another positive effect, I believe, of what was just proposed, and I'm happy to hear it.
Thank you, Georgia. That did clarify it a little bit. And Georgia is, she knows a lot about wildlife corridors, and
Well, I'm not
this is
sure about
probably the
that.
only place in the town where
Of
the
interest. And so the location also works very well there on Seneca Road, leading, along towards the river and River Road that then connects into Lime Park and helps move the animals from one preserve through the backyards of the neighborhoods up to the other ones. So I think it's well thought out, and I'm just happy to see it. Well done.
Does anybody else online have a question for the applicant?
I know when I was.
This is
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
go
Hi,
ahead,
this
Ellen.
is Ellen, but I don't have, I'm not in a spot where I can really ask too many questions. I just, I really just need to listen. I mean, I had sent Laura some stuff just about the questions that were brought up on the letter and if they've been addressed, but I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what Ellen wanted to point out to the board was there were outstanding planning board questions in the agenda statement.
Mhm.
But I believe Mr. Dassault was trying to explain that there's a new plan set that's coming out that addresses those concerns.
Mhm.
Correct.
Unfortunately, we just don't have it for you tonight.
Yeah, I have a couple other questions, if I may. When I looked at the water study that you guys did, you had I think it was a 25-year study for the inflow into the property, and then a five-year flood study for the exit of the property, Cross River Road. Could you explain why you chose different times for that study, different storm surges?
Yes, the subdivision code specifies a 25-year storm for anything, any new culvert that you install.
Mhm.
We're not proposing any culverts except for the driveways. Those were sized for the 25-year storm. The town asked us to study the Seneca Road culvert crossings to see
Mhm.
what was maybe causing the issue or how that issue was coming onto the property. The code continues to say that you cannot overwhelm any downstream culvert beyond at the 5-year storm. So that's why it was studied. The new study, where we've increased at the 25-year storm at the River Road culvert and the 100-year storm, both indicating that there is an issue at the River Road culvert possibly. And that's assuming that any issue that's happening at Seneca Road has been fixed, and that water is passed, and that problem that's happening at Seneca Road is kind of passed on to the River Road. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I guess that is my concern, right? If we have a 100-year storm, and that's probably more likely than it was 50 years ago, that property is going to fill up with water. And I think you said that the water line for a 100-year storm would be within 1 foot of one of the basement,
The basement, so the first floor would be 8 feet above that, so it'd be 9 feet above that flood
but the
elevation.
basement is only 1 foot.
Basement floor elevation,
Mhm.
1 foot.
So how does that get handled when you build a house to prevent the basement from getting flooded?
We would use current techniques for waterproofing the exterior of the basement. have a gravity-based drainage system around the basement with a backwater valve on it, which is typical for any area that would have a potential backwater entering the basement,
Mhm.
and then a battery or some pump backup.
Mhm. And when you did the 100-year storm, what was your assumption across River Road? Was it the current situation? You did
Correct.
100
Yes,
years for both in and out of the property, or
Yes, at the 42-inch culvert. So
40-inch?
the 42-inch culvert is controlling the outlet of that area.
Mhm.
The culvert is undersized for the 100-year storm.
Okay. And when you perform those studies, do you take into consideration the vegetation and the trees on the property and the potential of the obstruction of the flow across the property, or?
And that's taken into account for the development of the TCs, which time of concentrations for that determine the flow rates to the culvert. Again, when we analyzed the River Road culvert, we assumed that the issues upstream were taken care of, so that whatever problems are happening upstream are then being pushed down to the River Road culvert, which is undersized.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that assumption.
Yeah,
Because regardless of whether those culverts are fixed or not, the water's going to end up in this property. Laura, I have a question for you. If we find that this property can't withhold the water and the water goes higher, what options does the town have? Because this is a wetland. I mean, the town can't really go in and take out the wetland to increase the depth of the basin. So what actions would we take here? Or what options are available?
Well, so the town is looking at this project in two ways. One is like the subdivision, and then one is an overall drainage study to the entire sub drainage basin,
Mhm.
which could result in a recommendation from an engineering company, whoever does the total sub drainage basin study, may result in them saying, you know, the wetland will be okay, but in order to convey the water more appropriately and not cause the backup problems, you might want to make a channel. It may say that you need to have a retention pond higher up in the chain of water coming down to this point, because this is the very bottom, right?
Mhm.
So this is
Yep.
where all the water's going to. We're not sure what that study will come up with, but the reason that the highway superintendent and the highway water and sewer superintendent were in favor of the idea of like not only that 80-foot drainage easement but also the upland next door
Mhm.
is it gives them the flexibility if science says dig the channel through the wetland and we're able to get permits that they actually will be able to, because they said that if they had an 80-foot easement and there's no uplands on either side, it would be very difficult for them to get equipment in and out.
Mhm.
Whereas like if they're able to have the sides, they can kind of get in there and like scoop around in there and things like that. Also, there's a potential if they wanted to increase the wetland, the land area gives them an ability to increase the wetland. That's why they're in favor of the much larger easement or the,
How would that work?
Ownership.
Would they come in and they would take all the higher land there and take it out and form the wetlands?
I mean, yeah, that is just conjecture at this point, because what
Mhm.
we really want to do is hire an engineering firm to study everywhere and
Yeah.
see where it
Mhm.
makes the most sense to catch the water. Most of the time, it doesn't make the most sense to catch the water at the very end.
Mhm.
But if the town has the ability to do something there that helps, then they would want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the only reason they were talking about fee ownership is they also think that might make the permitting better if they were trying to do it. But the other thing that they were saying is they've studied the whole area. They know the water's bad, but if the applicant can show that these 3 homes can really survive like the massive of all massive storms,
Mhm.
and then that they won't add any more water to the wetland during those storms, then they're willing to kind of separate these 3 homes out from that, and then they'll do that study. And then kind of the benefit of the subdivision is that they will have the ability to do something in this area if needed.
Yeah, I guess that's the nature of my question is I realize that there's a long-term solution here, but with the wetlands, there are options for the town to remediate this problem.
possibly has to be studied more. They did an initial study that basically said kind of what we already understood was the culverts are undersized at Seneca.
Mhm.
But I think both the planning board and the town agreed that it's not really their job to upsize the culverts. But what we were worried about is if somehow we do the study and the culvert should be upsized and then all the water is free flowing from one side of Seneca to this property, is it going to flood all those homes? That was another thing that was very
Yeah,
worrisome.
no, that's a concern.
And that's what Mr. Dassault said they just modeled. That was the absolute worst case scenario. Water's free flowing, no restrictions at Seneca to this property
Mhm.
where the home's sitting in the 100-year flood.
Mhm.
And he's saying the basement is sitting on lot 2, which is the lowest, the basement sitting 1 foot above the 100-year flood model.
Yeah, and the revised report outlines all of that in detail, so we'll be submitting that soon.
I mean, that's definitely a very key issue that we
Yeah.
were concerned about. And that kind of goes to what Ellen was saying. There are some outstanding concerns. By verbally, it sounds like it was addressed. I haven't seen the actual data,
Yeah.
but I know that addresses really some of the key issues on the drainage that we were worried about.
For sure. You look like you want to say something. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think given the water issues that we have in this particular area, this is probably the biggest question, before the board. The other thing that I would like to ask about is when Seneca was put in, the development, there was no connection to the park. River Park. And one of the objectives we'd like to accomplish with this project is to have conductivity, at least for the residents and the houses that you're putting in to have access to the park, although you're adjacent to the park. So I guess that house doesn't really have that issue, but if you could talk to that, that would be really great. I know you have a path in there.
Yeah, there's a path and a bridge over the drainage way, that very narrow portion shown in the corner there. The applicant's intent is to maintain that, or not to maintain it himself, but to not remove it, just have it exist. And
Yeah, I think what we would like to see is something a little more formal, like a multi-use path to connect those two properties. The problem with maintaining a path like that is years go by and lawns get cut and grass grows there, and then it becomes very awkward for people to utilize that path, even though it is an easement per se. It becomes problematic for the town to maintain. So I'd like to see a established multi-use path in that area. I don't think it's going to take that much room. It's pretty short there, but okay, you can talk about it. Okay, does anybody else have any more comments or questions for the applicant?
I had a quick question, please, regarding the application to the Army Corps of Engineers. And you said there was a concern, or they asked you to look into some kind of bat. Could you go a little bit into that? Like, why that particular species of bat? Is this a known habitat for that bat?
first of all, I'm not a biologist, but I will try to speak to it. My understanding is that this northern long-eared bat likes to nest in the bark of certain trees. So
Shagbark hickories and yeah.
yeah, so they asked the applicant to have an assessment of the tree population on the parcels, and to see if there's any kind of nesting, any trees that would facilitate nesting of the bats during, I guess, their hibernation period. They studied the trees on the lot, both lots and in the wetland area, and determined that there's not a lot of trees that would be, provide that habitat. So that study's been given to the Army Corps and the DEC for review. We haven't heard any comments.
Is that part of the packet? Is it?
Yeah, that's in there. Yeah, I read
Okay,
it. It was-
okay.
So we actually dealt with this with Bever's Ledge. We haven't seen it in a little while, and I don't think you were here for Bever's Ledge, but
Yeah.
the northern long-eared bat is endangered. So, and if you look at the habitat, it does overlap Niskayuna. to my knowledge, they don't find them in Niskayuna often. But if the habitat is suitable, it's protected, and they're only allowed to clear in a certain window, or they have to do the whole habitat assessment that these guys just did.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, it sounds to me like there's still a few outstanding reports that need to be issued and some additional comments.
I had a quick clarification to Laura. Like this town engineering study on the water flow on the Seneca Road. What's the timeline on that? When is it happening? Who's paying for it? When can we expect to see results?
So the town is consolidating its drainage districts. It's been working on it the last few months, and the consolidation should lead to a consolidation of funding. And they are proposing to use that funding in 2024 to fund a drainage study at this location and at the Polsinelli subdivision, which you guys just recently looked at, because those were the two identified most challenged areas currently in the town of Niskayuna. So that drainage study timeline is like 2024. And then we're trying to do the drainage study to meet all the criteria that it will allow it to be submitted for New York State grants that implement drainage studies, because obviously the study itself the town can fund, but the solutions that may be proposed are probably going to be relatively costly and not able to be paid for with just the consolidation of the stormwater areas. So I think the intent there is to look for grants.
Well, the applicant mentioned in the beginning of his presentation that they're doing something to help the town out.
They did
Yeah.
do a overall study of the upstream and upstream drainage, mostly a little bit of the downstream drainage.
Thank you.
So what I was going to say was there are still some outstanding issues. Ellen raised a couple that have not been addressed. We have not received these updated stormwater report. We still would like to hear back on the multi-use path between the proposal and the park. So,
Georgia, I'm gonna mute you. We're getting some feedback from your line, or can you mute yourself?
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
so given that, I'm just asking the board what they would like to do.
The board has the purview to do whatever it chooses.
No, I'm asking members of the board. what they
Yeah,
want
the
to do.
planning board did ask for the secret recommendation tonight, but you obviously have
Mhm.
the purview to do as you need to do. You don't have the plans in front of you.
Hi, this is Ellen. I just think it was going to be really hard to make any sort of assessment without any information. With all, that's my only. I mean, I will go forward if the rest of everybody else wants to go forward, but I'm struggling to be able to put everything in perspective when I don't have all the information.
Yes, I mean, I support you guys either way because Mr. DeSolt is talking about plans that are not in front of you. You can condition your recommendation with what was essentially verbally promised you, or you could wait to receive the plans and do your and do your recommendation at that point.
My feelings are more aligned with Ellen, and wait until we have a little bit more clarity.
Chairman? Thank you, Ashok. Yeah.
My preference are to see the plans before making any decision.
Okay, well, then I think we need to see the full plans and have the question on the multi-use path answered before we can proceed. Thank you for your input, though. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a second EAF, and that's 2023-10, and that's 1430 Balltown Road. And this is an existing building, and the applicant would like to put an addition on this particular property. It also includes expanding the parking lot a fair amount. And as with the prior project, there are water concerns with this particular project, as well as just anything else the board sees. It's near the town overlay district or in the town overlay district. So if you'd like to address the board, you may so. Just state your name and firm and
All
go
right,
forward.
great. Thank you. Good evening, Luigi Palesci with ABD Engineers and Surveyors. We presented this project in front of the planning board about a month ago. We've made some revisions. We've received some of the CAC comments,
Mhm.
and we've addressed them on the latest and greatest plans that were submitted to you. So as you had mentioned, it's an existing building. It's 9,980 square foot building. It currently has 39 parking spaces in the back. It was previously used as an attorney's office, Higgins. They had approximately 25 employees with 50 visitors on a day-to-day basis. The Niskayuna School District offices are looking to occupy this building. In order to do so, we are proposing a 2,700 square foot addition on the south end of the existing building. We are looking to modify the existing parking lot to increase the parking spaces that are needed for this use. With the new parking lot design, we are at 58 parking spaces. The existing parking lot has several trees surrounding the entire parking lot. Out of, I forget the total number of trees that are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 larger mature trees around the perimeter are there currently. We're removing 2 of those. So with this parking lot redesign, our goal was to try to save most of those existing trees. And we did a pretty good job keeping the parking lot efficient with circulation. But 2 of the trees had to be removed. And when doing so, we're adding 2 new trees along the front driveway area there. 2 red maples is what we're proposing right now. The existing parking lot currently drains to the south to a smaller retention basin. That will be removed with this new parking lot design. And that detention basin would be moved to the front of the building, in front of the addition. The existing detention basin is very small, whereas with this redesign, we're able to redesign that detention basin, make it slightly bigger. Our first go around, we had an underground detention system, which only occupied or contained a 25-year storm event. And one of the comments was asking if we could increase the volume. So we took a second look at it. We were able to, remove the underground detention and move this detention to the front of the building. And now we can occupy the 100-year storm event. So capturing most of that or all of that stormwater runoff from both the new redesign of the parking lot and the existing building in addition, slowing it down and slowly releasing it to the same point as it's going today. So stormwater has been improved as proposed. The other questions that were asked was lighting. Again, there's existing parking lot lights out there. I don't know how many exactly again, but there are several out there, several individual light poles throughout the perimeter of the parking lot. And with the redesign, we're looking at 2 poles and 4 heads. So trying to minimize the amount of light poles within the parking lot, but still maintaining, enough lighting for security and, enough lighting for the pedestrians to go from their parking lot to the building. So again, keeping the amount of light heads less than what's currently out there today. Couple electrical vehicle stations were also added to this parking lot design. They will be added for the future, but we just wanted to show that on the site plan today. Conduit will be installed so that it's easier to be installed in the future. Solar panels was considered, however, due to the existing building, the existing structure cannot support the solar panels. We did a traffic summary, just explaining the current use or the previous use as the attorney's office, as I mentioned, and compared it to what the new use would be. And the traffic will be very similar. In our analysis, I think we anticipated about 4 more trips throughout the peak hour, which isn't much, especially for the Balltown Road corridor. And additional landscaping is proposed on the new plans and within the front yard along Balltown Road. I had mentioned the 2 red maples along the driveway, but with the stormwater detention basin in front of the addition, we are proposing to add additional landscaping along the berm of that stormwater detention basin. So we feel that we've addressed some of the comments here tonight to answer any additional comments that you may have. Our goal would be to get back in front of the planning board and continue the review with planning board. To my understanding, the town designated engineer has been assigned to review this project and the stormwater as well. So we'll work with them and this board and the planning board so that we can move forward. So if there's any questions, I'll turn it back over to you.
Does the board have any questions?
I just have a quick clarifying question. This is Richard Frontero. You mentioned the 4 trips. Would that be just someone coming in the morning and leaving in the afternoon? So essentially 4 more cars a day would be visiting the property?
Yes.
I have a couple questions, if I may. Could you describe the retention element that you have in the front and what it will look like and what type of retention you've designed for?
Yeah, so the retention, it's a detention basin. So basically, the entire parking lot will sheet flow to the south like it does today. And we have a new catch basin that we will be installing that will be piped to this new retention or detention basin in the front of that addition. And then there'll be a pipe that exits at the bottom of the detention basin. That detention basin is just basically holding the volume of water. And when the water enters, there's a smaller pipe exiting, which will slow the water down. So there will be some attenuation up to 110 or 100-year design within that berm. But for the most part, it'll be grass. And because of the grade elevations from Balltown Road, when you look up to where we're proposing that, you got like a 10-foot grade change. So you're not really going to see inside of this detention basin. But we also wanted to incorporate some landscaping in the front just so that it doesn't look like, a berm, so to speak. So it'll be a nice landscaping feature we're anticipating.
Laura, I have a question for you. Typically, when we see these in the housing developments, we have a chain link fence around them. There's pavements around them. Are we talking about the same thing here or?
No.
Okay.
These are
Because we're anticipating this basin to be dry for most of the time. You'll only see water in it, when it's raining, when you got heavy rains. I'm sure you've all seen parking lots kind of, have ponding water, and then for 10 minutes, because you get those flash floods. And then after 10 minutes, it's dry again, so that's kind of what you're going to see here. There will be a little attenuation, but for the most part, will drain and, enough so that you can mow it on a normal day.
Yeah, one of the concerns is the visual impact of just having a really big retention feature in the front along Balltown. We are trying to maintain a town walkable environment. There have been proposals in the past to sort of put more commercial development right up to the street and stuff. And I realize this is back. So, we're going to work with this the way we can, but minimizing that visual impact to accomplish what needs to be accomplished, because certainly flooding is an issue downstream of this property would be helpful.
Mhm.
And maybe if you could put together an elevation of what that might look like. I know you have an elevation of the building in our packet, but it does not show that retention in there.
No, but our site plans do show the topography and elevations proposed and existing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're reading those contours, we're at 433 at the road. And currently, if you go up into that existing detention basin area, the existing ground is around 441.
Yep.
So we're doing a little cut and fill. So we're going to cut a little bit of that out and just create a berm, but the top of that berm is 441. So we're trying to keep the grades very similar in that area. And to back up to your comment regarding trying to make this thing as small as possible, we did look at that. We also are doing another stormwater feature on the backside of
Okay.
the addition.
Mhm.
And what that is that takes the rooftop of the addition and sort of stores it on the backside of this and all releases to the front. So if we didn't have that system in the back of the building, then this detention basin would need to be larger in the front. So we did take that into consideration to try to minimize what we can put in the front.
I did also have another question about your study. You did a 100-year storm for 6 minutes, a surge for 6 minutes. Could you explain why that's the appropriate?
Yeah, so
Metric here?
6 minute is your time of concentration from the minute the water hits the ground.
Mhm.
And we use that conservatively because when you're passing along pavement, right? Pavement is a fast surface, so when water hits it, it's going to get there much quicker.
Mhm.
So we use that, and what that tells us is if that water is going to hit this basin that quick, you need more volume because we're only releasing so little.
Mhm.
So that's on a conservative measure. If we were to take it along the front of the grass, our time of concentration would increase, right? Because it's slower through grass.
Mhm.
If we use that analysis, then, it basically would say that you don't need much attenuation. So we are being conservative.
Mhm. You have cubic feet per second.
Yes,
That's
that's
the-
pretty standard. Yep.
So if you have a 100-year storm, and maybe you can understand where I'm coming with this, is how much time do you have? Because you have less flow leaving that basin than coming in to that basin. What's the volume of that before that basin fills up?
I don't have the actual volume numbers on me. We do have that in the storm.
You do have that in the
report.
stormwater
Oh, yeah, yeah.
report,
We've
yeah.
submitted the stormwater report and the town designated engineer is reviewing that.
Okay.
So
So that number's in there, so we can look at it. I mean,
it is,
really,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Yep. I mean, if you want to know tonight, I can pull
Nope.
the stormwater.
as long as it's in the report that we'll see, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, this is so. Last meeting we had 2 full stormwater reports, and the packet was 300 pages long. So
Oh,
this time I did actually take one of the appendices out. Sorry, that's why I didn't do it at the last meeting. But I
okay.
can send you the full report.
Yeah, send me the report.
But if this helps in any way, when we analyze the stormwater, we take our drainage area to Balltown Road and we look at the pre-development condition to
Mhm.
say, okay, how much water is really going to Balltown Road?
Mhm.
And then we look at our redevelopment and we
Yeah.
can't send any more water, right?
Yeah, no, I
So
saw
we
that.
are, yeah, that's what we have to do is
Right.
we can't send more peak runoff off our site. So that's why we need that detention basin to slow it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
No, yeah,
that's
no,
all.
I get that. And what we've got in our packet definitely shows that you're meeting that. So
Right,
I was
okay.
just more interested in the duration because basically you're storing water in that retention pond and eventually it's going to spill over.
It will not spill over because there's a small pipe that's controlling the 100-year flow.
Well, you could go above the bank of the retention pond.
Yes, but it's designed for an assumed 100-year inflow,
Okay.
right?
And this
and-
could be my non-familiarity with that metric.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but Luigi, what you're saying is even at 100 years, there's like an emergency thing.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. If the storm event is greater than that 100-year storm
Mhm.
event over, greater than the 24-hour, 100-year, like you always hear about and what's required per DEC. If this thing were greater than that, it would simply overflow that
Yeah.
441 contour and sort of sheet flow down the grass,
Mhm.
you know, again, slowing down, and you got all that distance from where it would cascade over before it even touches Balltown Road.
Okay.
So this is a good scenario because you have a lot of distance between where this would overflow to the road.
Mhm.
And the other thing too is, like, with the redevelopment, we're trying to keep the disturbance to a minimum, and, you know, we're less than 1 acre of disturbance.
Yep.
So keeping that small, you know, we didn't want to make this thing large of a detention basin, you know, so we're trying to keep everything compact.
Okay.
I had a couple of quick follow-up questions, please. First of all, thank you so much for addressing our comments from last time. So my first question is regarding the landscaping. At the Conservation Advisory Council, we are, this is a standard request that we make for all new projects. Like, the town has a pesticide-free pledge. Again, lawn pesticides are, quite harmful for both human and environmental health. And this is a standard ask that we make for pretty much everyone proposing landscaping, that would you consider going pesticide free and taking the town's pesticide free pledge?
You okay with that?
I guess so, as long as we can use the organics, right? You still use organic.
Yeah, there are some organic options available on the market, but broadly speaking, the standard kind of green carpet type lawn that you see is traditionally visually pleasing, but it does come at a huge environmental cost. I'm sure you've heard about Monsanto and Roundup and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and all that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So, we like to be in the forefront and say, hey, when given a choice between dandelions and cancer, it's not a bad idea to choose dandelions. So, not saying like, let it grow to seed and, be it nasty or something like that. But like at Union College, for instance, which is where I work, we have reduced our pesticide footprint by over 90% at this point. And still, we have large amounts of lawn, etc. So it is doable, but a little bit of public education. And given that this is the school district, that is not a hard sell, at least in my opinion.
John, can you come to the thing? Thanks. And state your name.
Hi, John Roth, Highbridge Development. Our tenant is Niskuna School District, and part of their requirements are they have to maintain the green spaces and, all of the landscaping. So I'm assuming that whatever practice they use right now on their big facilities, they're going to do the same here. So I can't speak to exactly what they use, but I'm sure if the town has asked them and pursued along the issues of what they do with their green space, I would assume they would do the same thing here.
Okay.
And hopefully that's the organic type of fertilizers. I don't know that though.
Well, there's fertilizer and lawn pesticides. It is the pesticide that's more of an issue in terms. I mean, that's certainly what all the recent lawsuits are about. One more quick clarification, please. I'm looking at the map, and you mentioned that you will be removing 2 large mature trees and replacing with 2 trees. It looks to me that there's space for more than 2.
There's actually 2 big trees in the front of that property too.
Okay.
Yeah, those are going to remain.
Right, and that doesn't really give you a true picture, but if you look at the two,
Can you point with a mouse or something like that?
They're indicated here, but not as big as John's mentioned. Like the tree canopy is probably like this round.
right,
Okay.
Same thing here, this tree.
right, there's two big mature trees in the front. We've owned the property for a long time, so
Yeah.
we love that look of the mature trees. We really didn't want to lose them, so we made sure that we worked around the best that we could.
Okay. And could you explain like the reasoning behind the choice of maple?
I think we just picked it.
Yeah, it's a common tree.
It is
Have a
common,
suggestion.
but permit me to say that the humble white oak is a much superior tree in terms of the life it can support and the birds it can host and so on. Scientific name Quercus alba. It's a marvelous tree to plant in about 70% of counties in the United States.
And
So-
it's readily available?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
probably
It's a very
Almost
common.
as easy as a red maple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine with us. That doesn't, if that's what you like, we have no problem putting that in.
Well, that's what the birds and the bees. See, the maple's ornamental in that, like nobody beats a maple foliage in the fall, but in terms of overall good for the environment, few things beat the white oak.
The only thing with the oaks, they have the seeds when they drop, right, the nuts there, it just,
Good for the world.
Yeah.
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 If you have a good squirrel population, you don't have to worry about them.
That's definitely how you're going to finish your sentence, right?
And I just, point of clarification, sorry. Point of clarification that the Niskuna Town School is going to maintain the property?
Yes, they're going to it's their responsibility to mow it, maintain
Okay,
it. and
thank
things
you.
Along those lines.
Great, thank you.
One quick question on the traffic. Please, you mentioned X additional vehicles, and I forgot what X is.
Four additional.
Yeah, that's basically comparable to change under a couch, right? As far as traffic is concerned on Balltown Road. Okay, I don't want to pursue that.
Can I, hi, this is Ellen. Can I just add, I had a question about that, so I thought maybe I would jump in here. So my question is just really this, is that, I noticed that it was it's been an attorney's office, with 25 employees. Is that what it currently is now, or when, or when did it stop being attorney's office, or, was it just recently?
Yes, it was just recently.
Okay.
Yes, they disbanded. Higgins Roberts was the law firm that was our last tenant, and recently they've broken up and went separate ways and left the building.
Okay, and then I just think I just wanted to reiterate just about making sure that whatever is planted is, is native to New York and falls on the pages of New York State bushes and shrubs and trees or whatever whatever is decided. And then my last question is just about it says that that it's not structurally able to hold solar panels. Can you just because the roof isn't sound enough, or I'm just curious.
Well, we posed the question to our structural engineer that's that's designing the new addition. And it is an older structure. I think it was built back in the 1950s. And the roof loads that they have up there currently right now, it's not that it couldn't hold it, but we just didn't feel that it was the right thing to do to put that additional load onto the older structure.
Yeah, so for clarification, I guess the answer is yes, it possibly could hold solar panels, but we're not sure.
Correct.
Is that something we need to find out, or?
Well, I
Or is
mean,
it
I
beyond
just,
the
you know,
scope
it
of
is,
this?
it would be really nice if this, it would be really nice, it would be it would be nice to have, you know, to have somebody take the initiative and do something along this lines. I mean, we ask everybody and, you know, anyways, I just, I would want, I guess when you said it wasn't structurally okay, I was like, okay, my house was built then and, you know, so, but, I would prefer to at least have the ability to put them on there if they wanted them, or what the cost was, or if any of, you know, what that looks like. I'm still pushing for solar panels, so.
I also,
It may be different when you've got a pitched roof versus flat roof. This is flat roof, so it could be more complicated.
Right, because it's carrying snow load and dead load. We have to put another rooftop unit up there for the new addition. So we're adding, you know, additional weight based on that too, so. We didn't run an actual formal calculation on it, but per our conversations with the engineer, we looked at it and said, we'd rather shy away from it at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Adding the EV ready infrastructure, correct?
Correct, we are adding that.
And I know that, I don't know, they're probably not reaching out to you directly. I think they're trying to reach out to school, but there's a variety of companies operating in Schenectady County right now that basically put them in for free. So I mean, I think it makes sense if you're the owner to do the EV ready spaces, but I mean, you can do that infrastructure and like tomorrow you could have a company just put the charging stations in there for free. It's like, because of the NYSERDA grants, I mean, they're getting the rebates and you're looking at like pennies to put those things in there. Yeah.
We're currently doing that right now on our new building downtown for New York State Lottery. We put in, how many charging stations? Yeah, we just put in 14 charging stations down there under that program. And we're going to look into it for this also.
Okay, yeah, because I think the infrastructure is super important, but you'd be amazed now. You know, I mean, you already know if you're putting them in, like you don't have to do any of the work. The company will just put them in there for you.
Mhm.
Are there any more questions or comments for the applicant?
Yes, staying on the environmental friendly theme, this is again a recommendation to consider what is called dark sky lighting. It satisfies all the illumination requirements to keep people safe, but it doesn't leak light upwards, which is, you know, bad for birds, insects, and astronomers. So this is again a standard ask for that we ask for all applicants to consider dark sky lighting.
Yeah, they're all LED down type lighting.
Okay.
So yeah, most of our lighting is like that now because a lot of boards are asking for that, so.
Okay.
Okay, Laura, the town engineer is evaluating the stormwater?
Mhm, yep.
Okay, and do we expect that done shortly or?
I believe it was completed. I may have put the thing in your packet. Let me just
I
double.
was looking.
Yeah. The initial review of the stormwater is in your packet.
Okay, and are they happy with the proposal?
Yeah, they don't seem to have.
It's hard to go through this. I mean, we got this just the other day.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have any outstanding concerns, but they did ask for the 100-year rainfall event, which Luigi said he has
Mm-hmm.
provided, so he hasn't seen that yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't. It sounded like, Luigi, that you actually don't have a copy of it, but it's page 94 through 97. If for some reason, I'll try and remember to email it to you, but if not, you
Okay.
can just look at it here too.
Yeah, when we first initially designed the stormwater, because we were under an acre,
Mhm.
typically town of Niskayuna requirements are designing up to 25-year storm.
Yeah.
But since the comment came out and we looked at, redesigning the storm, we were able to accommodate the 100-year without many impacts here. So that's,
Mhm.
it worked for both sides.
Okay.
I think.
Okay,
Let's have some EAF action.
okay. Does, anybody object if we, go through the questions? Do we have enough information?
I have enough information from me. Thank you.
Okay,
Laura, would it be
Yes,
possible
I'm
for
reading
the,
it.
yeah.
Mhm. And you know what, Ashok, as I was coming here, I remembered you asking for me to put them in the packet, which I did not do again. Just keep
Okay.
reminding me.
Okay.
I will try. Okay. So, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation?
No,
yeah, I would concur with that.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
well, applicant has provided a traffic study indicating that there's only 4 additional transport things in a day, so I'm inclined to say no.
We are developing more land, but that's minor, I think, given the location of where we are.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
The chairman did bring up the point about the visual impact.
Yeah, I think we need to minimize that impact there. I think that's very important because it is the town overlay district or adjacent to the overlay district.
So minimize visual impact.
I
Of
certainly don't want to see any fences or anything.
There won't be.
Yeah, okay.
Just making it clear.
to district. Okay, so we'll put that note on 3.
Yep.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Those are not here.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing levels of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Yeah, I concur.
Okay. The one thing I think actually is a positive is you have a sidewalk going from Walltown to the facility. Is that true? It was in your elevation?
No, the sidewalk is from the parking lot to the side entry on both sides, actually.
I thought there was one there. Thank you. My machine is like completely. Yeah, I thought there was one right there. Isn't that, or is that a lot? That's a line. Okay. So there's no front entrance in this building?
No.
No, it's existing on the left side of the building.
North side.
Yes. Yep. It's actually a pull-up area that they can pull up and drop somebody off right at the front door.
So if you're walking on Balltown, you want to walk in the front door, you have to walk the driveway.
Yeah, I guess.
And the high school is on the same side. I mean, I don't know how much foot traffic would go between high school and district office.
You would want a sidewalk.
I'm sorry, Laura?
I think you'd want a sidewalk.
Yeah, I think you do too. I think you're trying to maintain walkability. Sidewalk, it does along the side of the road, just separated. I think would be.
You don't have a problem with that. Right, coming
I
in.
think that's a key clarification. It might be more of a planning department, but I agree also it's very important to maintain this feel and character of the area. So maybe the front can change a little bit to continue the theme.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. Oh, I'll take it off speaker. I'm just joining in with what everyone is saying currently, that it is very important to maintain the walkability as well as the look and feel of the area of the town on Balltown Road.
Okay,
So perhaps you can look at adding the sidewalk, and maybe it's not an actual entrance, a faux entrance that just makes it look a little more storefronty.
yeah, no, I think we,
You know,
I think we can go up to where the carport is from the road, but I think,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay,
It's not that big of a deal for that sidewalk.
okay, what do we? Yep.
We'll put that note on 5.
Mhm.
I'm sure we can find a better way of saying it than storefronty.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's better for the town center overlay district. It's actually, we required Ace Hardware to do that too, although because of I can't remember exactly what it was, but they ended up having to curve their sidewalk over to the other side. But we are definitely trying to connect the buildings with sidewalks.
Fantastic.
So 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy, or does it fail to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
I think with the charging stations, we're going in the right direction with this.
Should we make a note though? Keep looking at the solar.
I'm sorry?
I don't have a problem
Just keep
looking
looking.
at it
Mhm.
and asking the school district too, if that's something that they're
Mhm.
willing to entertain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful just for your own. I mean, I do believe that the school district will probably be asking in their own way as the state moves towards supporting school districts and towns in their efforts to be more environmentally friendly and using renewable energy. So you might want to get that engineer to give you a thumbs up or thumbs down so you have a quick answer when people ask on that roof.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies or public-private wastewater treatment utilities?
I think that would be rather small.
Will the proposed action, actually, Luigi, do you know, both of these are connecting into Balltown Road and draining towards the city of Schenectady, right? The sewer?
Oh, the sanitary?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Oh.
think it is.
Okay.
We're not,
As long as it's
touching the existing.
existing, as
bed.
long as the
It's all
existing is going to Balltown Road and going to the city of Schenectady, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're actually not touching it. We're not
Yeah.
even putting any bathrooms in the new.
Oh, you're not? Oh,
The
okay.
new addition, there's no bathrooms going in.
They'll just use whatever's in the existing building? Okay,
Yeah.
then you don't have any problems there.
And with the same amount of employees, the usage is about the same as well. So.
Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
Well, there is a note regarding the aesthetic business, but otherwise it's
Yeah.
no.
I can re-add the note from 3 to minimize the visual impact of the stormwater. Yep.
Is that the location of the trees, the two new trees that you mentioned?
The two new ones.
Yeah.
What about?
The
No,
I
the
can-
the berm is proposed to be planted with like perennials, which I
Okay.
actually think is a
Yeah.
benefit. Like we talked about this at the last meeting, it is breaking up the front lawn, and they're
Mhm.
talking about. I think he has lilies, roses, fountain grasses, and some other things. But we can double check and make sure the final planting plan is native.
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Okay.
And then the trees are proposed along the entrance where we just asked for the sidewalk.
Okay.
Number 9 is, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
Or perhaps a small note about a message passed to the school district about pesticide free.
Yeah, I can put in here too that we're encouraging the native plantings and the white oak.
That's the, yeah.
I can't type on it tonight. I didn't download it. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
I mean, that's, I think, in my mind, that's the biggest concern. You've done a 100-year flood. If the town engineer has reviewed that and it's okay with that, then I think I'm satisfied. Personally, I don't know how, I'm not speaking for the rest of the board, though.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll put that note on that one. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
I don't see how.
Okay, so then I would summarize, oops, sorry. For your part 3, the main points are minimizing the visual impact of stormwater basin to the town center overlay district, adding the sidewalk from Balltown Road to 1430 Balltown Building.
Can the trees still be planted with the sidewalk?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I think that has a double benefit. We've been trying to get trees planted along the sidewalk on Union because then when people are walking on the sidewalk and it's very hot, there's shade. So it's good to have trees next to the sidewalk. The charging stations are a good step. We're requesting that the property continue to look at solar. Ask the school about their pesticide-free practices, encourage native plantings, and change the trees to white oaks. And then drainage is a concern in the area, so review the stormwater closely.
Okay.
One quick question before we take a vote. Duration of construction noise, and the duplexes opposite. How those residents being consulted? Is there any feedback from them?
They will sometimes get notification from the planning board. It depends, but they haven't been directly notified.
Could you talk a little bit about duration of construction and construction noise?
I think we have to be completed by June 1st of 2024
Okay.
for them, and we're going to work within the town limits. I think you have work, noise ordinance. We'll work within the noise ordinance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, with the comments that we've just gone through, do I hear a motion to take action? If so, what is that action?
I would like to propose a motion to give this project a negative declaration.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. So given the conditions that we have put on paper and that Laura has reviewed, I'd like to take a vote for a negative deck for this project. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any,
Aye.
are there any opposed? Hearing none, you have your negative deck.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. Okay, the next order of business is to reboot my, up here it goes, okay. Is the calendar. The calendar was included in the packet. Does anyone have, has anybody looked at it? And if they have, does anybody have some concerns about when the meetings are? And Laura,
There are a couple of second Wednesdays, right?
So the April is a second Wednesday to avoid the school break, and the October is a second Wednesday to avoid, I believe that's probably Rosh Hashanah.
Can I just ask a quick question? So I saw that we're meeting July 3rd. What, is the July, so the holiday will be July 4th on the actual day by most people? Is that the day that it'll be?
Yeah, that
Mhm.
shouldn't interfere with anybody's holiday. I mean, people may be gone around that time because especially when it's on a Thursday, like lots
it was
of
on
people are going to
Friday-
go Thursday, Friday, but
If our meeting was Friday, I'd be
it would
more
be a
concerned.
doomed. But yeah, it shouldn't interfere with any direct holiday there.
Okay, thanks.
So our
I'm good
fir-
with the calendar.
Okay. And I know you're trying to coordinate a lot of different,
Well, so what's
Committees.
interesting about this calendar, Dart heard me say it at the Economic Development Committee meeting, but is I do not think that we've had the full early voting for a presidential primary.
Mhm.
If we did, it was during COVID, so it was a little bit different because 4 years ago it was 2020. We definitely didn't have it in 2016, and they have their own primary, and so the town hall is this room is closed off during early voting, which I think is a very important benefit to people. But that's why you're losing the presidential primary has its own, and it's not connected with the June. So we have a primary on April 2nd, which closes the room off for the end of March. We have a primary on June 25th, which closes the boardroom off for like the second half of June. And then of course we have the usual one, which happens every year, which is the actual voting date of November 5th. And that really squeezed the meetings. It didn't impact CAC as much, but some of the other boards were pretty impacted by the 3 weeks of early voting. We have had a CAC meeting during a school break, but I do try to avoid them. If you did want to, you could put the CAC in April on the 3rd. The boardroom is open. That wasn't scheduled there because of school break.
Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Those of us who have kids in the school system and won't be around that week.
Okay. Again, I think we realize that not everybody can make every single meeting. So, and that's perfectly fine. So I propose we just adopt our meeting times and go from there. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think we- I don't think we need a.
as proposed.
As proposed.
Okay, yeah, and then if you see
Yes.
something really weird about it, let me know. We try and avoid the big ones if we can.
Okay, so let's move to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force portion of our meeting. And
I have
go ahead, Laura.
so I actually finalized the RFP for the greenhouse gas inventory today,
Mhm.
and I am requesting everything back by the 17th. So I am hoping to have a consultant to start the greenhouse gas inventory and the climate action plan by December 19th.
Excellent.
Very hopeful for that. It's a big accomplishment of the day. I did not do
Good.
the GE memo yet, though.
Yeah, let's go to, did you want to talk about the letter?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is this a G memo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's do that.
Well, I sent everybody an email. I wrote something up and asked people to edit it, and I didn't really hear anything back. But I have 2 good items in there.
I sent you like
Ashok, I emailed you back.
Really?
This is Ellen. Yeah.
When?
Uh-huh.
When did you
Um,
email me back, Ellen?
Oh, Ashok, I'm not in front of my computer, so I think, let me do a little deep dive while you're talking and see if I can, I didn't send it from this, so I don't know if you responded.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
there is
that
an
I
email
just
from.
wanted to include I think the corridor down the big hill that GE owned up into to the waterfall in there. Is that ringing a bell at all?
Okay.
To include-
It's it's been a long day, and I have to admit my brain's not like razor sharp right now. But there is an email from Clark Henry saying, like, believe by December 12th they want it.
Yeah, so just to clarify for Trish, who's doing the minutes, in case she doesn't know what we're talking about,
Okay.
GE requested a memo from the Conservation Advisory Council outlining the conservation initiatives that we'd like to work with GE on. Ashok drafted a memo, sent it to myself and Clark. I believe sent it to the
Committee.
CAC to review. It sounds like Ellen gave you comments. I have not really been able to dive into your memo, but I did send you the maps and the comments that I had made on the
Okay.
initial
Yeah.
initial outreach to GE, because one thing that I do like to do is kind of share that it's really not an easily developed piece that we're asking for conservation, just so that they like understand. I don't have a wetlands delineation, but I'm very familiar with that area because it's very close to the trail where I walk from my house, and there's like standing water on a lot of that parcel that we like. And there's a very steep hill, there's power lines that crisscross it. So I just felt like adding in that it's not really a great place for like a new GE building, but it's a great place for wildlife.
I can certainly include that
Yeah.
in the memo, and I'm happy to send an updated version to everyone tomorrow.
I looked at it and I thought.
Okay,
I
and
thought-
I'll look at what you circulate tomorrow, because I was thinking what Laura just said, particularly with the GE proposal and its location, that's another good segment of the corridor
Mhm.
that Laura and I have been identifying. So I'll definitely look at your memo, Ashok, and I'll respond to it as well.
Okay. What I was going to
Okay.
tell you was I looked at it. I thought the elements, you included everything that I think it should include.
Mhm.
And so what I would suggest, you want to get this out by the 12th? I think
Yeah,
that was
that's what
Clark's-
Clark said. Like they're going to close the window on us on the 12th, and we don't get a lot of opportunities to address, General Electric.
So
So-
we'll work on it.
So I
Mhm.
think that any comments that we
Mm.
have to be done by the 11th.
Mhm.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah,
Today's the-
that's
Yeah,
today's the
okay.
6th.
yeah. So as a next
I'm
course of
sorry.
action,
It's,
hold on
Before
1
you-
minute, whoever is talking. As a next course of action, I'd like to put everything in a Google Doc and send it to the CAC, and
Yep.
hope to have something something final by Monday.
No later than the 11th, I would say.
Yeah, no later than the 11th, which is a Tuesday, I
No,
think.
the 11th
No.
is a Monday.
11th
Monday,
is
the
a Monday.
12th.
I'd almost rather you guys get everything in by the close of business on Friday, the 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
okay,
would give
that's
us
fine.
time to formalize it by the 11th and maybe send it like a day early.
Okay. All right.
Sounds
So I am on it. Please.
with that, I had one additional question with the memo and the GE property. Is there any way to get like a blown up, clearer map? I just have a really hard time reading the maps that are being circulated. Am I missing something? They're so small.
Oh, I can send you the maps that I sent Ashok, Georgia. I mean, I think there isn't a specific map for it, except that Ashok identified when we were reviewing the GE subdivision that we've had a lot of conservation requests from GE over time. And so we're talking about like GE property like in total. But I do think that
Wow.
when we were looking at the corridors, like when we were identifying like how the
Yeah.
migration sort of probably follows the Mohawk River in that area, which is obviously the GE
Right.
lands. So adding a
Right.
bullet point on this, has a lot of value for the wildlife corridors between Colony and Saratoga. Like that would be a good point to add
Definitely.
in there. Mhm.
So if you could get me a copy of those maps, that would be great, just because it's just hard for me to fully comment when I can't really see.
Yeah, I'll do that for you.
Okay.
If I forget, just
Okay.
email me.
All right. I'll email you. Sure. Okay.
So I will set up the Google Doc and I'm going to send it to the CAC. So, it's like what they say in the weddings, right? You speak now or forever hold your peace or something like that. So if all the comments that we need should be given on the Google Doc by Sunday. And, you know, if you are going to comment on it and add stuff to the memo, like, please write a nice paragraph that's like self-supporting and, you know, not like a few sentences like, oh, this is my wish list, I hope it happens. Like, you know, it needs to be clear and, you know, well argued. I'm happy to polish up the language, but it needs to be like a couple of steps better than a, like, oh, this is what I wish for.
And I think if you don't receive any comments, we draft a letter and it goes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's not a difficult deadline, and it'll go out the way that it has to go out.
All right. Are we good there?
Yeah. Yes, I'm good.
Okay. I mean it sincerely because I think it's really important. We need to do it. Okay, looking at these other items, Ashok and several of you talked about the Bethlehem Conservation Easement Program. So do we have anything else? Pesticide outreach, LOMO, Quiet Niskayuna. Does anybody on the committee want to talk about these items at this meeting or?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say about the RFP going out for the climate smart communities
Mhm.
is when I get that out, like maybe in January, if we have a light agenda, we can Chuck kind of knows it because he was on the climate action task force before, but I can get that points breakdown of what we need to do, and then we can dive in a little bit more to actually trying to get the climate smart certification in January, as long as we don't have a super heavy
Yeah,
agenda.
I think we should make that a priority.
Which I think we should, as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't want to jinx us,
Yeah.
but I mean, right now it's not going to be a heavy load in January. So I think it would be a good meeting to actually kind of parse the program out and look at what the town has done and what we want to do, and then look at how the initiatives that you guys have been doing has been getting us points, and then people could take on anything additional
Yeah,
that they wanted
no,
to.
I think we should definitely do that.
I did want, I know it's harder when you're on the phone, but Ellen had been telling me to order the new seeds for the plantings, and they did come in a couple days ago. So if we can't plant them now, the Schenectady County is very happy to do it in the spring. Either way, we've got a big box of seed up
Okay,
in my
good.
office, which is exciting for the LOMO. And thanks to Ellen for not giving up on us for doing that. And the other benefit to that is that it also spends down the entire conservation advisory budget of $100. But it is good to spend our budget. So, and then, yeah, Ashok's RFP is coming due December 15th, I think, for the natural
Yeah,
resources.
we have already received one proposal. I will reach out to Hudsonia and ask them, like, you know, the deadline is coming. What are their thoughts? And Laura, you mentioned we really need to have two.
Yeah.
We really need to have two.
Mhm.
So, you know, if Hudsonia backs out and say like, oh, we decided not to, apply for this thing, then we will need to find out another applicant, and I will follow up with this.
Yeah, if we send out a reminder, I think.
I think like a quick, so CDRPC, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, has like a climate smarts coordinator, community coordinator that helps us, Tara Donadio.
Mhm.
They have seen other communities do natural resources inventory. I think that's actually where we found a couple of the ones that we've used before. So they might be able to give us some additional names.
Who is this? What is this
I
organization?
think you've talked to her before, but her name's Tara Donadio. She's right on the CDRPC's website. If you just look up Climate Smart Communities Coordinators for the Capital District.
CDRPC.
Yeah, the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. I always get them confused with a couple other ones, but they have a grant from the state that allows them to help us with our Climate Smart
Mhm.
certification. So I work with Tara all the time. She's wonderful. I'm sure she can give us a couple additional names for people who do natural resources inventories, because doing a natural resource inventory is a pretty heavy duty item for getting Climate Smart certified. I think it gets you like 10 or 12 points. I mean, it's up there.
Okay. I want my points.
You want your what?
My points.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very motivated by points. Ask my Girl Scout troop. So,
Okay. For Laura, anybody, do we want to discuss any of the remaining items?
I'm good.
I'd like to make a request that, like in the next meeting, this part of the meeting comes first and the EAFs come next. Is that legal? Can we do that?
It is legal, but if we had the applicant sitting in the audience, like we're usually respectful to who's
Yeah.
attending to our meeting, so we allow them to conduct their business and then we stay late to do the other stuff. Usually, that's
So
what
what
If
I,
I-
what I would propose is if next meeting's a light meeting, we put this first, and if there's nobody coming to speak with us, we can put it right after the village. of
Oh,
Florida.
well, you know what though? I mean, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. We did just defer 2890 River Road, so we know they'll be back.
Well, I'm 100% in agreement that if there are applicants or privilege of the floor, they should go first. But if there are, say, two EAFs and one of them has the applicant here and the other one we are discussing or something like that, I'd like to, give due diligence to the person in the room and then go do the thing and then come back to the other, because like frequently, when it comes down to this part, like I'll speak for myself, yeah.
I mean,
No,
another thing we can
and
think
I
about
agree with you.
is when we're talking, and I mean, it's just something to think about because I know you guys are all stretched very thin. But like, if instead of getting here at 7, we got here at 6:30, we could do a bit of a working session, and then start the EFs at 7 or something like that. It just depends on how you guys can do it. But usually we would do the EAFs first if there's someone.
We
in the
could
audience.
change the order. We could just take a vote and change the order on the fly.
Okay.
You actually, Ellen was the chairperson and changed the order at the in November because one applicant was here and the other one wasn't.
We've done that in the past, not in the recent past, but
Yeah, Bill used to do it all
Bill
the
used to
time.
do it all the time. Before I was the chair, Bill used to change the order. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement because I know that by the time we get to section 7, I'm usually pretty tired. If we have had a lot of discussions and we need to focus on this more.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine. Good comment. Okay, hearing no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right. Hey, Chuck. We'll do it next time.
Thank you, Richard, Ellen, and Georgia.
Have a great evening.
Well, thanks,
Hi,
you
guys.
guys.